This video's on identity crisis. I'm about to play an Instagram clip of a woke young Hispanic dude who was dropping knowledge, but I guess people gonna say he acts black and he's a sellout in the Hispanic community. But this is gonna be a long video. I'm gonna drop a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of jewels in here. But this disclaimer: I don't want no smoke from the I'm just a schizophrenic SoundCloud rapper. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't want no smoke from the CIA. I'm retarded. I'm just sprouting nonsense. Nonsense, right? This is just comedic entertainment purposes, you know? Nothing more. Nothing less. So don't pay me any mind. I'm just an ignorant black person. A monkey, yeah. Okay. That being said, let's get into it. Alright. This post is by a dude named G West, a prophet, Hispanic descent. I'm not sure. I guess this is my assumption that he's Mexican because he's doing a topic on Mexicans and Latinos. So alright, that's what he said.
Warning, I am going to expose the truth about melanated Mexicans and melanated Latino black people. And yes, you heard me, black people. And for the motherfuckers that want proof, watch this whole fucking video. I am about to blow your mind and expand your mind how we are all the same and these are just labels. Mexicans, Cuban, Brazilian, these are all fucking labels. We're all the fucking same inside. So before I even bring up my proof of where Mexicans come from and how the slave trades happen and all that shit, you know, the evidence and proof and facts of how we're all black, us Mexicans and Latinos. Well, not all Mexicans, but for the most part, most Mexicans and Latinos have neuromelanin in them, which is what this is. And neuromelanin is basically melanin that can observe the sun. And that's why you see a lot of blacks, Mexicans, and Latinos with, you know, nappy afro type of hair. Mexicans have that too. Wait for the proof. But read all this. And look, things to know. It is for black and brown. Not white people. White people have a different type of melanin, but that's for a different video. I already got a video on that on my IG. And yup, as you can already guess, they took that video down on me explaining where white people come from. Because you already know that TikTok is soft as fuck and they targeting me because I expose everything and I know the truth to everything. You feel me? I'm the black cat aware of all 9 dimensions. I expose everything. Nigga, quit playing with me. Neo from the fucking Matrix. But you see that? African. You see that? Black and brown. Ooh, wait. Warning. I am going to expose the truth.
As you can see, he was dropping knowledge. But if you go
about
into Instagram
melanated
comments,
Mexicans and melanated
you see a lot of people talking smack. Just for example, bro, the Aztecs were not African at all, not even 1%. The Aztecs had melanated skin. Now, in this video, I don't even want to go through the comments. I just want to get straight into the knowledge. But I'll read a couple more. You're not the same, you absolute fools. The Native Americans came from Eurasia. No black man or woman entered Latin America until the slaves trade. The Aztec Mexicans and Native Americans all come from Eurasia. They don't have your facial features, hair texture, dry, crusty skin, etc. It's in their DNA. Science proves this. Alright. So, I actually replied to this. Hold on. Justo in declaration. Right on the statement. That's what it means. Translates to. You need to study more. Africans migrated here in the ancient times. Just face it, you ain't white. There's no studies with actual proof. They were never here in ancient times. Couple articles, article, link. Alright, I said, motherfucking Asians come from us. Hashtag mental illness and denial. We have proof of how all the races were created. And that's real, man, that's real talk. Now let me drop some knowledge on you, okay? Let me drop some knowledge. So there's numerous topics to discuss. I don't even know where to start. There's so many. Well, I guess start with melanin, or there's the Anunnaki, the Elohim, which people debatably they want to claim that they're two different people because the Elohim are mentioned in the Bible. The Nephilim are mentioned, but not necessarily the Anunnaki. But you have the story of Adamu or Adam, We got Babylonia, Samaria, just populations, how they divided, split off. The monkey theory, evolution. You got a lot of things. So you got the EGG. So, and I'm gonna speak on Malaysians, all the Asian races, the three races, white, black, Asian, how they got divided into even more races. It turns into 5, 7. All the ethnicities of the world, nationalities. It's just a lot of work. The story of Yakub. Yeah, Neanderthals. The meaning of Latino, Hispanic, Mestizo, and Denisovans. Yes, the Denisovans, they're like Neanderthals. Eurasia. So that's pretty much all the topics I'm gonna discuss. The meaning of black and white as well, Caucasian, the continent of Oceania, Garden Eden, and Charles Darwin. So I'm gonna get into it. So many people like to claim that black people are monkeys, and well, I've never seen a monkey with an afro. As you see, I got these examples. I searched in monkeys with afros. Well, there is a gorilla with curly hair, which I'm about to show you an example. And I'm not going to put it in this video right now, there's too much information, but I have seen one case of one black person that was actually born with a tail like a monkey. But there are several cases, if not hundreds, thousand cases of pale skin complexion people born with tails like monkeys. It's not too many cases where black people are born with tails. I only seen one, like I said, but I didn't get to put it in this video. It's too much information. But anyway, the only monkey with any hair similar to black people right here would be this curly haired one, because even this one with puffy hair right here is still straight, and that my ancestors, we don't have straight hair. And when they say now they're trying to claim that black people have Neanderthal in their blood, which I'm gonna get into, the only race that really made it with the Neanderthals of the black species was the Australians, which I'm gonna show you examples of. But as you can see, this is straight hair. It's not an afro. It might be puffy, but it's not an afro. That's what I'm saying. And then, where are the monkeys that the quote-unquote black people come from? Are these them? They say these monkeys right here resemble humans the most. I mean, I guess, you know, I could see it. Not really. Like, I already get on you niggas, really calling us and shit. But I'm explaining the relationship between the apes. This is all through the Anunnaki. But yeah, so this is the pictures of this. So let me get into the next thing. So you have the Neanderthals. Neanderthals are the closest extinct human relative. Some defining features of their skulls include the large middle part of the face, angled cheekbones, and a large nose for humidifying and warming cold air, cold/dry air. Neanderthal behavior. Neanderthals are a hominin species that existed for at least 200,000 years throughout Europe and Western Asia and disappeared for about 27,000 years ago. During this time, they witnessed some of the coldest climatic conditions ever known in these regions. Many of their physical features suggest that they were adapted for the cold, such as barrel-shaped chests, shorter limbs, and larger brains, all of which suggest a body shape adapting for retaining heat. They excelled at hunting animals and making complex stone tools, and their bones revealed that they were extremely muscular and strong, but led hard lives, suffering frequent injuries. There is no doubt that Neanderthals were an intelligent species, successfully adapted to their environment for over 200 millennia. But how human were they? Did they exhibit behaviors that were considered to be uniquely human, such as language? Oh, I'm really nasty. Neanderthal. Neanderthals are the closest extinct human relative. Some defining features of their skulls include the large middle part of the face, angled cheekbones, and a large nose for humidifying and warming cold, dry air. Neanderthal behavior. Neanderthals are a hominin species that existed for at least 200,000 years throughout Europe and Western Asia and disappeared about 27,000 years ago. During this time, they witnessed some of the coldest climatic conditions ever known in these regions. Many of their physical features suggest that they were adapted for the cold, such as their barrel-shaped chests, shorter limbs, and larger brains, all of which suggest a body shape adapted for retaining heat. They excelled at hunting animals and making complex stone tools, and their bones revealed that they were extremely muscular and strong, but led hard lives. Suffering frequent injuries, there is no doubt that the Neanderthals were an intelligent species successfully adapted to their environment for over 200 millennia. But how human were they? Did they exhibit behaviors that were considered to be uniquely human, such as language, music, art, and religion? And why did they disappear from Europe so soon after modern humans? So, it would be a whole nother video entirely on its own trying to speak about what races specifically have Neanderthal in them. So many, but the one specifically that's black would be the Australians, the Australian Aboriginals, one of the oldest races. As you can see, they're black, dark skinned like Africans, if you will, or whatever you want to call them. But they have straight hair, as of Asian or the European races, Eurasian. So these people are considered basically like Asians, Eurasians, but they're black and they consider themselves from Africa. If you look at the global map, Australia is right directly under Africa. Yeah, but they also call it Oceania, which I'm gonna speak on later in the vid. See a couple pics, straight hair. As you can see, they do have Neanderthal-like features, as you can see. But other Africans, they don't have Neanderthal-like features as such. But this would be, they would say, have ties with the American Indians, which would be dark-skinned people with straight black hair. You have the Polynesians as well. Well, my mistake. Yeah, the Melanesians. As you can see, they're black people as well, but they have blonde hair, a little bit curlier, but they have straight hair as well. But blonde afros, as you can see, blonde straight hair. It's a lot of Polynesians, black Melanesians that you wouldn't know about in the world. But as you can see, here's a couple of examples. Blue eyes, dark skin, blonde hair. Polynesians. Polynesians form a ethno-linguistic group of closely related people who are native to Polynesia, an expansive region of Oceania in the Pacific Ocean. They trace their early prehistoric origins to island Southeast Asia and form part of the larger Austronesian ethno-linguistic part of a Urheimat in Taiwan. I'm sorry if I slaughtered that last word, Urheimat in Taiwan. Gene splicing and human evolution isn't the same. Well, anyway, you have this racist cracker named Charles Darwin, who they let opinion matter. Anyway, Charles Robert Darwin was an English naturalist, geologist, and biologist, widely known for his contributions to the evolutionary biology. His proposition that all species of life have descended from a common ancestor is now generally accepted and considered a fundamental concept in science. So what was his theory? What was Charles Darwin's theory? Darwin proposed that species can change over time, that new species come from pre-existing species, and that all species share a common ancestor. In this model, each species has its own unique set of heritable genetic differences from the common ancestor, which have accumulated gradually over very long time periods. What is Darwin's theory of human evolution? According to the theory, individuals with traits that enable them to adapt to their environments will help them survive and have more offspring, which will inherit those traits. Individuals with less adapted traits will less frequently survive to pass them on. So that's basically just Charles Darwin and his crack ass opinion. I mean, situational adaptation is a thing, but humans didn't necessarily evolve, but we do share common ancestry. But I'm gonna get into that. That's in the part with the Anunnaki. How many ethnicities are there on Earth? Because data sources such as censuses or services are self-reported, in other words, people are classified how they ask to be classified. The ethnic group data reflects how people see themselves, not how they're categorized by outsiders. Those results measured 650 ethnic groups in 190 countries. What are 10 different ethnicities? White and European Americans, Hispanic and Latino Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, and Alaskan Natives, Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders, Middle Easterners, and North Africans. Two or more races, genetic admixture. What are the 6 races of the world? Definitions for new race and ethnicity categories. American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, white. How many main ethnicities are there? The revised standards contain 5 minimum categories for race: American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and white. There are 2 categories for ethnicity: Hispanic or Latino and not Hispanic or Latino. A lot of these questions are kind of repetitive, but there's really only 3 main races. But anyway, what is the largest ethnic race? The world's largest ethnic group is Han Chinese or Han Chinese, constituting over 19% of the global population in 2011. In terms of the largest number of native speakers, Mandarin is the world's most spoken language. What are the top 3 ethnicities? The white alone, non-Hispanic population was the largest racial or ethnic group in the United States at 63.7%. The Hispanic population was the second largest at 16.3%. The Black or African American alone, non-Hispanic population was third largest at 12.2%. What are the 42 ethnicities? Currently, our genetic models are based on 42 ethnic groups around the world: Africa, Central African, Ethiopian Jewish, Kenya, Mesoamerican, Andean, Indigenous Amazonian, Native American, Japanese, Mizrahi, I'm sorry if I get it wrong, Mizrahi Jewish, Iranian, Iraqi, Mongolian, Ashkenazi Jewish, Balkan, Baltic, Middle Eastern, Yemenite Jewish, Oceania. What is race versus ethnicity versus nationality? Race refers to physical differences like skin color as well as social and biological attributes that groups and cultures consider significant. Ethnicity refers to shared cultural characteristics such as language, ancestry, practices, and beliefs. What are the 8 major ethnic groups? There are many ethnic groups in America. The U.S. Census distinguishes 6 racial categories: white, black, American, Alaskan, Native, Asian, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, 2 or more races, and other race. In addition, the census asks Americans whether they are Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. What are the 7 races of people? OMB requires 5 minimum categories: white, black, or African American, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian and Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander for race. OMB permits that the Census Bureau to also use a 6th category: some other race. Respondents may report more than one race. See, like I said, a lot of this is repetitive. Hold on, I'm about to cut this real quick. What are the 5 official races? People who identify their origin as Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish may be of any race. OMB requires 5 minimum categories: white, black, or African American, American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian and Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Now see, that was a key one. See there? When people be saying identity crisis, well, let me read that one more time. What are the 5 official races? People who identify their origin as Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish may be any race. Any race. But let me get on. That's some different one. Is Black British ethnicity? Black British people are a multi-ethnic group of British citizens or either African or African Caribbean descent. Is Jamaica an ethnic group? Jamaicans are the citizens of Jamaica and their descendants in Jamaica diaspora. The vast majority of Jamaicans are of sub-Saharan African descent, with minorities of Europeans, East Indians, Chinese, Middle Eastern, and others of mixed ancestry. What is my ethnic origin? Definition: ethnic origin refers to the ethnic or cultural origins of persons' ancestors. An ancestor is usually more distant than a grandparent. Persons refers to an individual and is the unit of analysis for most social statistic programs. Is American a nationality or ethnicity? Americans are the citizens and nationals of the United States of America. United States, my fault. The United States is home to people of many racial and ethnic origins. Consequently, American culture and law do not equate nationality. It says do not, but American culture and law do not equate nationality with race or ethnicity, but with citizenship and an oath of permanent allegiance. What is considered Hispanic ethnicity? Hispanic or Latino origin includes people of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Central and South American, Dominican, and other or unknown Latin American or Spanish origin. People of Hispanic origin may be of any race. Is nationality your ethnicity? Nationality refers to the country of citizenship. Nationality is sometimes used to mean ethnicity. Although the two are technically different, people can share the same nationality but be of different ethnic groups, and people who share an ethnic identity can be of different nationalities. I'm gonna read the definition of citizenship soon. Can you be 100% of an ethnicity? Yes, it's possible to have 100% ethnicity match in one region on DNA results. Can DNA tell your ethnicity? Ethnicity cannot be detected by DNA, but there is sometimes an overlap with a person's genetic ancestry. What is race P? A. American Native or Alaskan Native. B. Black or African American. P. Pacific Islander, including Native Hawaiian. S. Asian. W. White. O. Unknown. Health wave premiums are waived for American natives or Alaskan natives, so it is important that if a person falls into this category, it is recorded. What is the Spanish race called? Hispanic refers to a person with ancestry from a country whose primary language is Spanish. Latino and its variations refer to a person with origins from anywhere in Latin America, Mexico, South and Central America, and the Caribbean. What is the largest ethnicity in the United States? The white population remained the largest race or ethnicity group in the United States, with 204.3 million people identifying as white alone. Overall, 235.4 million people reported white alone or in combination with another group. However, the white alone population decreased by 8.6% since 2010. What nationality is the most in the USA? White is the most common race in the United States. It usually refers to people with Europe or Middle East, such as Germany, England, and Syria. Black or African American refers to people from most parts of Africa. Asian refers to people from countries in Asia such as China, Japan, South Asia, or the Philippines.
Denisovans. The Denisovans are the first ancient hominin species to be revealed by genes alone, not by fossil classification. While placed in the Homo genus or genus, they have not yet been given a species classification as no physical description exists. They are named after the Denisova cave in Russia where the first fossils were found. The Denisovans, or Denisova hominins, are extinct species of subspecies of archaic human that ranged across Asia during the lower and middle Paleolithic. The Denisovans are known from few physical remains. Consequently, most of what is known about them comes from DNA evidence. No formal species name has been established pending more complete fossil material. The first identification of a Denisovan individual occurred in 2010 based on mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, extracted from a juvenile female fingerbone excavated from the Siberian Denisova cave in the Altai Mountains in 2008. Nuclear DNA indicates close affinities with Neanderthals. The cave was also periodically inhabited by Neanderthals, but it is unclear whether Neanderthals and Denisovans ever cohabited in the cave. Additional specimens from Denisova cave were subsequently identified, as was a single specimen from the Baishia Karst cave on the Tibetan Plateau and Cobra Cave in the Annamite Mountains of Laos. DNA evidence suggests that they had dark-skinned eyes and hair and had a Neanderthal-like build and facial features. However, they had larger molars, which are reminiscent of middle to late Pleistocene archaic humans and Australopithecines. My fault. My mistake if I slaughtered those words. Denisovans apparently interbred with modern humans, with a high percentage, roughly 5%, occurring in Malaysians, Aboriginal Australians, and Filipino Negritos. This distribution suggests that there were Denisovan populations across Asia, the Philippines, and New Guinea, and/or Australia. Integration into modern humans may have occurred as recently as 30,000 years ago in New Guinea, which, if correct, might indicate this population persisted as late as 14,500 years ago. 14,500 years. This is also evidence of interbreeding with the Altai Neanderthal population, with about 17% of the Denisovan genome from Denisova cave deriving from them. A first-generation hybrid nicknamed Denny was discovered from a Denisovan father and a Neanderthal mother. Additionally, 4% of the Denisovan genome comes from an unknown archaic human species which diverged from modern humans over 1 million years ago. So when we're talking about the American Indian and identity crisis, we have a lot of people saying like, "Oh, we could never come from black people. We don't even have that type of hair. We're white." Well, you're wrong and you're right. white people came from us in the first place. And you are correct. Blacks and whites aren't the same. But either way, we can trace back the lineages. And either way you cut it, y'all retarded as fuck. As I read, Hispanic is not a race, it's a combination of races. So you have Africans, right? From Africa. But as I showed you, you have these Australian Aboriginals with straight hair who interbred with these Neanderthals, quote unquote, 1,000 years ago. But this isn't how the humans were made. This I won't even have time to explain it. I'm gonna have to get into the next video about the Anunnaki. I'm gonna just have to cut it short. But these Australian Aboriginal, as you can see, Melanesians, they interbred. Well, the white man, quote unquote, wants to say the American Indian is the Eskimo Mongoloid type that's pale skinned, but the dark ones was here. The Australian, well, not even just the Australian, the Africans was here too. The Africans was here, and also the Australoid Aboriginal type, if you want to call it. It goes both ways. Not all blacks is Indians, and not all Mexicans is Indians. You see, you got Hispanics from Spain, and you got blacks from Africa, but you got black Indians, you got Hispanic Indians too. So it's just, you just got to know what's going on. There's a lot of mixtures going on. There's billions of people in this world. All your ancestors is not from the same spot. So much admixture going on. So much nasty fuckery, sex type timing going on. Your ancestors from all over the world now. It just is what it is. You know, the truth of the matter, nobody's trying to claim everything. It's the truth. It's just historical fact. We was kings. Yeah, you damn right. We was kings. We was everything, nigga. Mestizo, Spanish, female term, mestiza, literally mixed person, is a person of mixed European and indigenous American ancestry in the Spanish Empire. In certain regions such as Latin America, it may also refer to people who are culturally European, even though their ancestors are Native American. The term was also a ethno-racial exonym for mixed. The term was used as an ethno-racial exonym for mixed race castas. Castas just means lineage. That evolved during the Spanish Empire. It was a formal label for individuals in official documents such as censuses, Paris registers, Inquisition trials, and others. Priests and royal officials might have classified persons as mestizos, but individuals also use the term in self-identification. Was Eurasian, adjective, 1, of mixed European or European American and Asian parentage. 2, relating to Eurasia. Noun, a person of mixed European or European American and Asian parentage. Who is considered Eurasian? In modern usage, the term Eurasian is a denominative, usually meaning or of relating to Eurasia, or a native of inhabitant of Eurasia. It is also used to describe people of combined Asian and European descent. What does it mean if you're Eurasian? A Eurasian is a person who has one European and one Asian parent, or whose family comes from both Europe and Asia. Eurasian is also an adjective. She married into a leading Eurasian family in Hong Kong. What cultures are of Eurasia? The 4 major culture areas are European, Russia with its Slavic, particularly Great Russian, majority and many Tatar and Uralic minorities, Central Asia with its predominantly Turkic Muslim peoples, notably the Kazakhs, and the Uzbeks spread over vast steppes and desert regions. Siberia, what nationality are Eurasians? Eurasians are persons with mixed European and Asian lineage. Most Eurasians in Singapore can trace the European part of their ancestries to the Portuguese, Dutch, or British, while others are of Danish, French, German, Italian, or Spanish descent. Do Eurasians have Neanderthal DNA? Fast facts. Neanderthals have contributed to 1 to 4% of the DNA of humans of Eurasian descent. Neanderthals have also indirectly contributed to the genome of modern humans of African descent via ancient modern human migrations back into Africa. When did Eurasians split from Africans? The H. sapiens ancestral to proper Eurasians most likely left northeastern African between 5,000 years, no, my fault, 50,000 years and 100,000 years ago. The recent African origin model proposes that all modern non-African populations descend from one or several waves of H. sapiens that left Africa 70,000 to 60,000 years ago. What does it mean to be 1% African? While little DNA exists comparing people's perceptions with the reality of their ethnic makeup, a 2014 study of 23andMe customers found around 5,200, or roughly 3.5% of 148,789,000 self-identified European Americans had 1% or more African ancestry, meaning they had a probable black ancestor going back. Which European country has the most African DNA? Iberia, Spain, and Portugal, having the highest amount and strongest concentration of sub-Saharan mtDNA in Europe. That's quite interesting since 1942. It seemed like Spain and Portugal, the war, it seemed the black fella power. That's a whole nother story though. Do we all have African DNA? Evidence still suggests that all modern humans are descended from an African population of Homo sapiens that spread out of Africa around 60,000 years ago, but also shows that they interbred quite extensively with local archaic populations, as they did so. Neanderthal and Denisovan genes are found in all living non-Africans. Alright. So the Neanderthals came back into Africa, and this is what this article's about. The Africans have more Neanderthal DNA than previously thought. A new analysis of more than 2,500 human genomes indicates that modern Eurasians who acquired Neanderthal DNA during past interbreeding migrated back to Africa and spread through those sequences. Modern Africans have an average of 17 megabases of Neanderthal DNA in their genomes, according to an analysis published today, January 30th, in Cell. While that's still quite a bit less than the 50 plus megabases of Neanderthal DNA found in the genomes of modern Eurasians, it's more than some scientists expected, and quite a bit more than the zero assumed by the statistical methods that have been used to identify Neanderthal ancestry in modern human genomes. We always knew that there was some Neanderthal DNA in Africans, says Jeanette Kelso, a computational biologist at the Max Planck Institute of Evolutionary Anthropology, who was not involved in the study. What's surprising here is the amount. It's actually a larger proportion than I think people have imagined. Archaic humans. A number of varieties of Homo are grouped into the broad category of archaic humans in the period that precedes and is contemporary to the emergence of the earliest early modern humans, Homo sapiens, around 300 Ka. Among the earliest remains of H. sapiens are Homo Kabish I, Homo I, from southern Ethiopia, C 195 or 233K or 195 or 233. The remains from Jebel El Hord in Morocco, about 315K, and Floresbad in South Africa, 250 AK. The term typically includes H. ancestor, H. Bordernisser Denisovans, and then H. Denisova, H. Heidelbergensis 600 to 200 Ka, Neanderthals, H. Neanderthalensis 340, 240, 25K, and the H. Rhodensinus. Well, really slaughtered that shit, motherfucker. 300 to 125K. So a little overview of the article. Overview. Eurasian peoples likely originated in the Caucasus area, and thus they are often called Caucasians. Most of them settled in Europe over the past 4,000 years, but some had their homelands in what are now defined as Asia, Georgia, and Armenia, which are south of the Caucasus, of the Caucasus Mountains. This and the eastward spread of Russians to the Pacific Ocean are the reason the term used here is Eurasian rather than European. The 23 people clusters assigned to the Eurasian peoples affinity block are primarily linguistic in definition, encompassing the Romance, Germanic, Slavic, Ural, and Caucasus language families, along with a handful of less prominent languages. There are an estimated 39 teaching languages in use in the world's universities, and 27 of these languages are within the Eurasian peoples affinity block. Caucasian race. The Caucasian race, also Caucasoid, Europoid, or Europid, is an obsolete racial classification of humans based on a now disproven theory of biological race. The Caucasian race was historically regarded as a biological taxon which, depending on which of the historical race classifications was being used, usually included ancient and modern populations of all or parts of Europe, Western Asia, Central Asia, South Asia, North Africa, and the Horn of Africa. First introduced in the 1980s by members of the Ghanaian School of History, the term denoted one of the three purported major races of humankind, those three being Caucasoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid. In biological anthropology, Caucasoid has been used as an umbrella term for phenotypically similar groups from these different regions, with a focus on skeletal anatomy, and especially cranium morphology without regard to skin tone. Ancient and modern Caucasoid populations were thus not exclusively white, but ranged in complexion from white skin to dark brown. Since the second half of the 20th century, physical anthropologists have switched from a typological understanding of human biological diversity towards a genomic and population-based perception or perspective, and have tended to understand race as a social classification of humans based on phenotype and ancestry as well as cultural factors, as the concept is also complexion from white skin to dark brown. As the concept is also understood in social sciences. In the United States, the root term Caucasian is still used as a synonym for white or of European, Middle Eastern, or North African ancestry, a usage that has been criticized. The Caucasus and the origin of humanity and the peak of beauty. In the 18th century, the prevalent view among European scholars was that the human species had its origin in the region of the Caucasus Mountains. This view was based upon the Caucasus being the location for the purported landing point of Noah's Ark, from whom the Bible states that humanity is descended, in the location for the suffering of Prometheus, whom is Hestoid's myth had crafted humankind from clay. Now we're gonna get into that. I can't get into the Anunnaki and the biblical similarities, but I'm gonna get into that the next video. In addition, the most beautiful humans were reputed by Europeans to be the stereotypical Circassian beauties and the Georgian people. Both Georgia and Circassia are the Caucasus region. The Circassian beauty stereotype has its roots in the Middle Ages, while the reputation for the attractiveness of the Georgian people was developed by the early modern travelers to the region such as Jean Sheridan. The term Caucasian as a racial category was first introduced in the 1780s by members of the Ghanaian School of History, notably Christopher Manners in 1785 and Johann Frederick Blumenbach in 1795. It has originally referred in a narrow sense to the native inhabitants of the Caucasus region, or the Caucasus region. In his The Outline of History of Mankind, 1785, the German philosopher Christopher Manners first used the concept of a Caucasian Caucasic race as its wider racial sense. Manners' term was given wider circulation in the 1790s by many people. Manners imagined that the Caucasian race encompassed all of the ancient and most of the modern native populations of Europe, the Aboriginal inhabitants of West Asia, including the Phoenicians, Hebrews, and Arabs, the autochthons of Northern African, Berbers, Egyptians, Abyssinians, and the neighboring groups, the Indians in the ancient Ganchis, I'm sorry, if I slaughtered that, you feel me, these ancient names. It was Johann Frederick Blumenbach, a colleague of Manners, who later came to be considered one of the founders of the discipline of anthropology, who gave the term a wider audience by grounding it to the new methods of craniometry and linear taxonomy. Blumenbach did not credit Manners with his taxonomy, although his justification clearly points to Manners' aesthetic viewpoint of Caucasus origins. In contrast to Manners, however, Blumenbach was a monogenist. He considered all humans to have a shared origin and to be a single species. Blumenbach, like Manners, did rank his Caucasian grouping higher than other groups in terms of mental faculties, or proportional, or potential for achievement, despite pointing out that the transition from one race to another is so gradual that the distinctions between the races presented by him are very arbitrary. Alongside the anthropologist George Cuvier, Blumenbach classified the Caucasian race by cranial measurements in bone morphology. In addition to skin pigmentation, following Manners, Blumenbach described the Caucasian race as consisting of the native inhabitants of Europe, West Asia, and the Indian Peninsula in North Africa. This usage later grew into the widely used color terminology for race, contrasting with the terms Negroid, Mongoloid, and Australoid. Carlton Kuhn. This was never consensus among the proponents of the Caucasoid race concept regarding how it would be delineated from other groups such as the proposed Mongoloid race. Carlton S. Kuhn, 1939. Included the populations native to all of Central and Northern Asia, including the Anu people under the Caucasoid label. However, many scientists maintain the racial categorizations. Of color established by Manners and Blumenbach work, along with many other early steps of anthropology, well into the late 19th and mid to late 20th centuries, increasingly used to justify political policies such as segregation and immigration restrictions and other opinions based in prejudice. For example, Thomas Henry Huxley, 1870, classified all populations of Asian nations as Mongoloid. Latrobe Sedard 1920 in turn classified as brown most of the populations of the Middle East, North Africa, and the Horn of Africa, Central Asia, and South Asia. He counted as white only European peoples and their descendants, as well as few populations in areas adjacent to or opposite southern Europe, in parts of Anatolia, and parts of the Rif and Atlas Mountains. In 1939, Kuhn argued that the Caucasian race had originated through admixture between Homo Neanderthal Linus and Homo sapiens of the Mediterranean type, which he considered to be distinct from Caucasians rather than a subtype of it, as others had done, while Blumenbach had erroneously thought that light skin color was ancestral to all humans and the dark skin of southern populations was due to the sun. Kuhn thought that Caucasians had lost their original pigmentation as they moved. Kuhn thought that Caucasians had lost their original pigmentation as they moved north. Kuhn used the term Caucasoid and white race synonymously. In 1962, Kuhn published The Origin of Races, wherein he proposed a polygenous view that human races had evolved separately from local varieties of Homo erectus, dividing humans into 5 main races, and argued that each evolved in parallel but at different rates, so that some races had reached higher levels of evolution than others. He argued that the Caucasoid race had evolved 200,000 years prior to the Congoid race, and hence represented a higher evolutionary stage. Kuhn argued that Caucasoid traits emerged prior to the Cro-Magnoids, and were present in the skull and quasi-hominids. However, these fossils in the predmost specimen were held to be Neanderthaloid derivatives because they possess short cervical vertebrae, lower and narrow pelvis, and had some Neanderthal skull traits. Kuhn further asserted that the Caucasoid race was of dual origin, consisting of early Dolichocephalic, e.g. Galley-Hill, Combe-Capelle, Tavik, and the Neolithic Mediterranean Homo sapiens, e.g. Moon, Long, Barrow, Corded, as well as Neanderthal-influenced Brachycephalic Homo sapiens dating to the Mesolithic and Neolithic, e.g. Ophilo, Hevlige, Feldkings. Kuhn's theories on race was much disputed in his lifetime and are considered pseudoscientific in modern anthropology. So these are all the races that they're trying to say. Well, this is not all the races, just a couple examples that they have up here. But they're trying to say these select few amount are white races. You got the Armenian man, Armenoid type, Irish man of Mediterranean type, Basharan man of Hamitic type, Afghan man of Iranid type, Danish man of Nordic type, Tajik man of Alpine type. Notice how the Tajik looks like an Indian, and the Basharan man looks like a Arab. But it's cool. Like when niggas saying they're not black, I mean, yeah, I guess you're not black. It says right here you white, but I mean they're definitely way darker than the other races. You feel me? They definitely got some higher skin pigmentation to them, but we'll get into that another vid. I'm just continuing this. The Hindu man of mixed Aryan type, Catalan man of Iberian type. Classification. They got a little map. It shows you the Caucasoid, Aryan, Semitic, Hamitic, the Negroid, African, Negroid, Khoi, Malaysian, Negrito, Australoid, the Mongoloid, North Mongol, Chinese and Indo-Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Tibetan, Burmese, Malay, Polynesian, Maori, Micronesian, Eskimo, Inuit, American, and the uncertain Dravida and Shihalis. So it's a little map. In the 19th century, Myers, Conversations, Lexicon, 1885 to 1890, Caucasoid was one of the three great races of humankind, alongside Mongoloid and Negroid. The taxon was taken to consist of number of subtypes. The Caucasoid people were usually divided into three groups on ethno-linguistic grounds termed Aryan, Indo-European, Semitic languages, and Hamitic languages, i.e. Berber, Cushic, and Egyptian. 19th century classifications of the people of India were initially uncertain if the Dravidians and the Shihalis were Caucasoid for a separate Dravida race, but by and in the 20th century, anthropologists predominantly declared Dravidians to be Caucasoid. Historically, the racial classifications of the Turkic peoples was sometimes given as Turanid racial type or minor race, subtype of the Europid, Caucasian race with Mongoloid admixtures, situated at the boundary of the distribution of the Mongoloid. Mongoloid admixtures, situated at the boundary of the distribution of the Mongoloid and Europid great races. There was no universal consensus of the validity of the Caucasoid grouping within those who attempted to categorize human variation. Thomas Henry Huxley in 1870 wrote that the absurd denomination of Caucasian was in fact a conflation of his Xanthrochoi, Nordic, and Melanochoi, Mediterranean types, subraces. The postulated subraces vary depending on the author, including but not limited to Mediterranean, Atlantic, Nordic, East Baltic, Alpine, Dinaric, Turanid, Armenoid, Aranid, Indid, Auridid, and Hamitic. My apology. Hamitic. H.G. Wells argued that across Europe, North Africa, the Horn of Africa, West Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia, a Caucasian physical stock existed. He divided this racial element into two main groups, a shorter and darker Mediterranean or Iberian race and a taller and lighter Nordic race. Wells asserted that Semitic and Hamitic populations were mainly of Mediterranean type and Aryan populations were originally of Nordic type. He regarded that the Basque as descendants of early Mediterranean peoples who inhabited Western Europe before the arrival of Aryan Celts from the direction of Central Europe. The North Caucasian race is a sub-race proposed by Carlton S. Kuhn, 1930. It comprises the native populations of North Caucasus, the Balkars, Caucasus, and Vanak, the Chechens, and the Ingush.
I apologize for me slaughtering these terms. An introduction to anthropology published in 1953 gives a more complex classification scheme. Archaic Caucasoid races, Anu people in Japan, Australoid race, Dravinian people in Vede, primarily Caucasoid races, Alpine race, Armenioid race, Mediterranean race, and Nordic race, secondary or derived Caucasoid races, Dinaric race, East Baltic race, and Polynesian race. Secondary, like the Polynesians would be secondary due to the fact that they're part black, African, if you will, if that's what you want to call them. The usage in the United States. Besides its use in anthropology in related fields, the term Caucasian has often been used in the United States in a different social context to describe a group commonly called white people. White also appears as a self-reporting entry in the U.S. Census. Naturalization as a United States citizen was restricted to free white persons by a Naturalization Act of 1790. The latter extended to other resident populations by the Naturalization Act of 1870, Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, and Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. The Supreme Court in United States versus Bhagat Singh Tide, I apologize, 1923, decided that Asian Indians were ineligible for citizenship because though deemed Caucasian, anthropologically, they were not white like European descendants, since most lay people did not consider them to be white people. This represented a change from the Supreme Court's early opinion in Ozawa vs. United States, in which it had expressly approved the two lower court cases holding high caste Hindus to be free white persons within the meaning of the Naturalization Act. Government lawyers later recognized that the Supreme Court had withdrawn this approval I apologize for his name mispronunciation. In 1946, the U.S. Congress passed a new law establishing a small immigration quota for Indians, which also permitted them to become citizens. Major changes to immigration law, however, only latter came into 1965 when many earlier racial restrictions on immigration were lifted. This resulted in confusion about whether American Hispanics are included as white, as the term Hispanic originally applied to Spanish heritage, but has since expanded to include all people with origins in Spanish-speaking countries. In other countries, the term Hispanic is rarely used. The United States National Library of Medicine often used the term Caucasian as a race in the past. However, it later discontinued such uses in favor of the more narrow geographical term European, which traditionally only applied to a subset of Caucasoids. Caucasian versus white. In the United States, Caucasian is often used as a synonym for white or of European ancestry, but in anthropology, Caucasian or Caucasoid usually includes some or all of the populations of Europe. The Caucasus, a region in Europe between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, which includes Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and parts of Russia, Turkey, and Iran, Asia Minor, North Africa, and the Horn of Africa, Western Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia. Historical anthropological evolution. In early attempts at racial classification, skin pigmentation was regarded as the main difference between the races. The term Caucasian race was coined in 1785 by Christopher Meiners, a German philosopher. Meiners recognized two races, the Caucasian or beautiful. Meiners recognized two races, the Caucasian or beautiful, and the Mongoloid or ugly.
according to his classifications. The Caucasian race encompassed the native populations of Europe, the Aboriginal inhabitants of West Asia, and the Autok known as of Northern Africa and Indians. Anthropologist Joanne Frederick Blumenbach took racial classification further and divided humans into 5 races based on skin color: Caucasian, the white race; Mongoloid, the yellow race; Malayan, the brown race; Ethiopian, the black race; and the American, the red race. Physical traits of the Caucasians. Blumenbach tried to justify his classification with scientific terminology, cranial measurements, and facial features. Caucasoid traits he noted were thin nasal aperture, nose narrow, a small mouth, facial angle of 100 degrees, 90 degrees in orthognathism. As you can see, a couple of examples: white skin, fair white, pale white, light white, chalk white, ashen white, porcelain white, ivory white. Variants of white skin. Later, anthropologists recognized other Caucasoid morphological features such as prominent supraorbital ridges, a sharp nasal seal, minimal protrusion of the lower part of the face, little or no prognathism. I apologize again. Retreating cheekbones making the face look more pointed. Narrow nasal aperture with a tear-shaped nasal cavity, nasal fossa. Caucasians are not always white. Skin color amongst Caucasians vary widely from pale, reddish white, olive, or even dark brown tones. Hair color and texture varies too, with wavy hair the most common. Legal context. The Naturalization Act of 1906 stipulated that only free white persons and aliens of African nativity and persons of African descent were allowed by law to become U.S. citizens by naturalization. In 1922, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Takeo Ozawa, a Japanese American man, was ineligible for naturalization. In issuing the ruling, the court defined white person. The words white person were meant to indicate only a person of what is popularly known as the Caucasian race. In 1923, the Supreme Court ruled on a similar case where Bhagat Singh Thide, or Sikh Indian man, was seeking naturalization. He argued that a high caste Hindu, he was a member of the Caucasian race. His arguments was anthropologically sound, highlighting the linguistic ties between Indo-Aryan speakers and Europeans, but the court rejected his argument, saying that authorities on the subject of race were in disagreement over which people were included in the scientific definition of the Caucasian race. In the words free white person in the Naturalization Act were synonymous with the word Caucasian, only as that word is popularly understood, pointing out that the statutory language was to be interpreted as words of common speech and not of scientific origin, written in the common speech for common understanding by unscientific men. I have to cut the video short. It's getting too long, but the next vid I'm going to start off with black and then continue on with the Anunnaki. By black, I mean the census change. I'm going to show the terminology of black and meaning. I'm going to touch on melanin a little bit. This identity crisis. As you see, by definition, legal definition, Hispanic means white, classified, Arab, Mongoloid. But if you're black and you're Mexican and you know you're black, we accept you. You feel me? Come on to the side, but you feel me? The tie, we ain't claiming niggas anymore. You feel me? Like you got it. Niggas is white, like you said. You feel me? By definition, niggas is white. I mean, not niggas, Hispanics. So if you want to be white, yeah, that's you. Go ahead. But we gonna touch.
you where the white man came from. It still doesn't really matter at the end of the day whether you white or not. But yeah. So it's like that, and yeah, like not all blacks is Indians, but not all blacks is Africans. It's like that. Not all Hispanics is Indians, and some best believe you got that Spanish blood from Spain. We ain't gonna touch about the Arabs and the Egyptians and who they is, and then the Northern Africans versus sub-Saharan Africans. But you already know we got a lot to discuss and touch on. Yeah. So like BZ, Dr. Goff, you already know what it is. Yeah, like I said, I don't want no smoke. I'm just a schizophrenic SoundCloud rapper. I don't want no smoke with the CIA. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Let me rephrase that. Hispanic is, or at a point in time was, legally classified as white, but at the same time, as you seen by definition, it means can be of any race. Does not mean that it's not a race on its own. It's a mixture of specific races, and all three of the main races would happen to be you could be called Hispanic and be white, black, or Asian, or a combination of the three. So if you want to be white, that's you. By legal definition, that's what I mean. If you want to be white, yeah, by legal definition, that's what it is. But also by legal definition, it means that can be of any race. So you got all types of shit in that type of bracket, that community. So my brothers, you know who you is. Stand tall, you feel me? We gonna stand together, you feel me? We gonna get this knowledge, you feel me? We gonna stop that genocide shit, you feel me? I mean, you don't gotta stop the genocide, but at least knock some other shit down while you at it. Shit, do some shit.